Hi, and welcome to a recap of our session that we had on the 6th of September to our adult dyslexia support group, where we discussed disclosure of dyslexia. If anything in this recap triggers a feeling or an emotion, you are most welcome to call any of the people listed here on the screen to talk about what has happened and what has triggered. What we did in our meeting is we covered these topics. So we looked at what does disclosure actually mean. Then we looked at the benefits and the risks of disclosing. Then we looked at how to disclose and workplace responsibility. So what this recap is a mixture of what was presented, but also the discussion that we had from the session. So first we looked at what does disclosure mean? So disclosure is when we as dyslexics decide to tell other people in our lives about our dyslexia. And it's a type of unmasking. We're opening up, potentially for the first time, that we are dyslexic. So one of our strongest coping strategies is masking or hiding that we are dyslexic or struggling. So it's quite a big step to disclose that you are dyslexic. Because dyslexia can be hidden more easily than other neurodiversities, we can actually have a choice in if we do it, like if we unmask or decide to disclose that we are dyslexic. In a minute, we're going to look at the different levels of disclosure, who you're going to disclose to, and perhaps why you're going to disclose. And we've found that for yourself, there's a better emotional outcome if you have some control over the timing of your disclosure. If you're in a situation where you're potentially going to be unmasked that you're dyslexic, whether it's at work or when you're doing study, like in an exit interview, or when the workload is overloading your brain, that can feel like you don't have control over the fact you've got to disclose. And that can leave you with feeling emotionally uncomfortable. So the levels of disclosure, it could be that you disclose to your immediate family. And it may not that you disclose to your extended family until you feel more comfortable. It could be that some members of the extended family don't understand, and it makes it feel less safe to do that disclosure to the extended family. So the advantage here is that you get to practice with those closest to you that are your support network. You can disclose at work, but it could be that you might just disclose to your manager or boss, or you could just disclose to your workmates and the management don't know. Or it could be that everyone at work knows. And finally, you could be that you disclose to the public. And it might be that you're in a situation that you have to do something that you find difficult because of your dyslexia. And you may say, if you're in a situation you have to fill out a form, you could say, look, do you mind helping me? I'm dyslexic and this is a bit of a challenge for me. So those are the different levels. The other one that you can disclose to is a dyslexic support group. So the advantage of that is that you're in a group that understands what it's like and how uncomfortable or scary it can be to disclose you're dyslexic when it's sort of going against years of trying to keep it hidden. So the advantage of a support group and doing it with your family is you get to practice. You get to increase your awareness around what your dyslexia means for you. And you get to understand, how you can sell it, how you can advocate for yourself. These are my strengths. I'm dyslexic and these are my strengths. And I struggle with these parts. So it helps you work out when you do disclose how you're going to do it. So if you do it within the safety of a support group or within your family. Then we had discussion really good discussion amongst the people who attended, looking at the risks of disclosing. And what we came up with is, this assumptions made by those you tell. And this comes from the lack of awareness that, I'm dyslexic, and how many, might assume that it means you can't read and write. So, or that you're not very smart. So the risk of disclosing to someone who doesn't understand dyslexia is that the assumptions that they'll make. You could have a potential loss of control of who knows. So you may tell a manager or a workmate, and that they may spread it. And so you feel like, who knows who doesn't know. That the expectations might be lowered by the employer or the tutor on what you can do. So that's, again, a lack of awareness and understanding of the way a dyslexic's brain works. If you disclose while you're applying for a job, it may stop you from getting to the interview stage. So at what stage, if you're going to disclose, do you do it? They may ask for credible proof, like an assessment, to back up you saying you're dyslexic. And this in itself can be a barrier due to the cost of getting an assessment and the accessibility. How easy is it to get an assessment done in your region? And, if you disclose because of a lack of awareness and understanding, they may not provide the support you need anyway. And just going through the actual process of disclosing, especially when it's a new, or you feel like you have a lot of control around how you were doing it, this can cause heightened anxiety. So this could be in a situation that, you've been found out, you feel like you're going to be unmasked in your workplace or with your study because you're not managing the workload as well as you want to. And that you feel like you might be forced to say, this is what's happening. And just in that process of being forced can increase the anxiety. So we looked at the risks, but also we looked at the benefits of disclosing. So if we disclose we're dyslexic and we're in an environment that's supportive, we could have increased access to accommodations and support. So there is that benefit that the workplace or the learning institution that you might be at will put in support and accommodation. And learning institutions definitely will. It means that if you disclose, you can advocate for yourself and emphasize what you're good at. So you can start to increase the awareness of those around you who may not understand dyslexia as well as they need to support you as best as they can. So by advocating, you can start to, redefine dyslexia. So the strengths, I'm not so good at that part, but I'm really good at this part. The big picture thinking, the problem solving, the relationship building. So you can start to, change your language around the benefits of being dyslexic. Another benefit of disclosing is you can openly use accommodations in the workplace. So it's, as part of that masking, we develop our strategies, but we think, well, if someone sees me using the strategy, then they'll know that I'm struggling. So we keep the strategies we use hidden as well, or the accommodations. So it can bring it out in the open, so we're not masking even our strategies, our support strategies. And it might be that you say things like, I take it in better when I see it. Can you please send that to me as an email? Or it could be, I need to write this down. And, it could be, can you speak a little slower? This gives you time to visualize what you're saying. So another benefit of disclosing is it helps keep that sense of control. If you have the choice and when you do it, that gives you that sense of control. And by having it out there that you are dyslexic, it reduces that fear that we have of being unmasked or found out. So those were the benefits that we discussed around disclosing dyslexia. It's really about you having control of the narrative. You define your dyslexia. you can advocate, you can increase awareness of what it means in your workplace or where you study. So we want to look at how to disclose. What's a way, what's something that we can put in place so that we feel supported in our way that we're going to disclose that we're dyslexic. So after our discussion, it came up with these three things. It was to have a plan, it was to practice, and it was to provide information. So if we look at what we can do around how to disclose, these are the three things that we thought, if we put these in place, it's going to be the best outcome for ourselves and who we're disclosing to. So you plan, you work out what you are going to say, you work out who you're going to say it to, and you've got to think about what you want from this disclosing. Is this to get more support and accommodation? Because if that's what you want, you have to put this into this plan to say, look, this is happening and I would like this, please, to help me. So when you're working out what you're going to say, you want to know what dyslexia means for you. What are your strengths? What are you good at? And this can be a challenge when you're dyslexic to know what you're good at, because we're so used to seeing the things that we struggle with. So it might be this is where you talk to other people to get feedback on what you're good at. It could be this is something that you do with a support group, with family members. You work out who you're going to say it to, and you can put in the parameters around how far they spread it. So it could be that you're going to say it to your boss and you're going to say, look, just keep it between us at the moment, and so you can have some control. And, give examples of your dyslexic strengths you've used in the workplace. And, the accommodations that would be helpful. Usually, it can be very based on the environment, like getting, technology or, using coloured screens. It can be just having them email instructions instead of telling you verbally. So it's sort of thinking about what works for you in that, the accommodations that will support you in your work or your study. So that's the plan. We want to have this plan. Then we look at the practice. Okay, we need to say it more than once. And this is, if we practice, it's going to help reduce our anxiety when we actually come to say it. It's like our elevator pitch. We say, when I disclose, this is, these are the points I want to cover. So by practicing it, it makes, you make sure that you do cover it. And work out some key phrases that you can use and come back to. So, it's just working on the strengths with those. So it can be, like, oh, that matches my big picture thinking if I do it this way. And finally, provide information. So this is advocating and increasing awareness for those around you. So take along resources that have information explaining dyslexia. So it could be handouts, link to videos. You could hand out the contact details for our trust, because we are more than happy to provide a service of increasing awareness in the workplace and that study, with ideas of where they can look or what they can do. So this is we've got the plan. This works it out. This gives you your big picture on how you're going to do it. Then you've got the practice, so that if your brain goes offline in the moment of disclosure, you've got some key phrases, some ideas already there about what you want to talk. And it might be that you have it, your bullet points written down so that you can check them off to make sure you've said the whole amount that you want to say to the person you're disclosing to. And then finally, provide information so that you've got resources that increases the awareness of the person you're disclosing to, so they start to get an idea, more understanding. They're not the experts on dyslexia. You're the expert. So this is your chance and your way to pass that information on. So that's the way. That's how we can disclose. So let's look at what is the workplace responsibility in New Zealand at the moment around supporting dyslexic workers. We come under the New Zealand disability legislation. So if it's disclosed when we're employed, in the process of being employed, so through the recruitment process, They are required under New Zealand disability legislation to provide support. If you haven't disclosed that, you may not have known, because it's very common not to know that you're dyslexic, until things mount up. There can be, under a health and safety aspect, through the increased stress and anxiety that comes with being overloaded as a dyslexic in the workplace. So the employer may actually have an employee assistance program and system. Not all of them do. And this is where you can access, it's called EAP, through, to manage the stress and anxiety. So it's a confidential service. The employer doesn't know who is accessing it or why. They pay for the service. So that is a way that you can get some sort of support. When you make contact to talk to a counsellor in the employee assistance program scheme, ask for someone who is aware of dyslexia or understands dyslexia, so that they understand where your stress and anxiety can be coming from. And businesses are increasing their awareness through diversity, equity, inclusion practices. So this is understanding that, every business has diversity, and we are one part of the diversity. And some businesses are setting up employee resource groups. And what this is it's where the workers get together. So it'd be the dyslexic workers would get together and they support each other. So it's like an internal support group within that business. And they come together, and one person might be the spokesperson towards the management. So that's another way that you can increase awareness and support within the workplace. So those are some of the things that are happening in the workplace. So if you're looking at, support for disclosing and what you can do, you can contact us. This is the phone number and the email to find out what resources are available. We can talk you through what your plan could be, what you need to cover, and who you need to say it to. And we will have some resources, a disclosure toolkit put up on our website shortly to help that you can access. So it could be, this is a really good video to take along to someone that you want to disclose to. So thank you very much. That's the recap of our session that we had, and we'll see you next time.